Minimax M3 costs over 10 times less than Claude per output token. We're talking $2.40 per million versus $25. That's a completely different budget tier. Both models just dropped with million token context windows, so now is exactly the right time to figure out which one actually earns your money. I'm running Minimax M3 against Claude across 5 real tests, pulling from official docs and community benchmarks only, no vendor spin. And honestly, the final scoreboard is way closer than the price gap makes it look. So if you're running a multilingual workflow or you need the freshest knowledge cutoff, the cheaper model might actually be the wrong call for you. This comparison is for developers and teams deciding where to route API calls, especially at scale where token costs compound fast. Pick wrong and you either overpay by 10x, or you ship a product that falls apart for non-English users or serves stale answers, and that's a real cost. Test 1 is context window, and the failure mode here is pretty brutal. You load a massive codebase or a long document into your prompt. The model silently truncates it, and you get a confident but wrong answer based on incomplete context that takes hours to track down. Both Minimax M3 and Claude support up to 1 million tokens, so on the headline number, they're identical. The one wrinkle is that Minimax guarantees a minimum of 512K, while Claude just states 1M without a floor, and you can see that on screen right now. I want to be honest about this one though. A million token window sounds amazing, but practical effectiveness at that length is still unclear for both models, because neither has published real retrieval accuracy numbers at 900K tokens or anything close to that. So take the headline figure with a grain of salt. I was honestly expecting one of them to have a bigger window, but nope, it's a dead tie at 1M tokens. So the scoreboard after test 1 is Minimax M3 0, Claude 0, 1 tied, and no winner here, just parity at a headline number. Neither has fully proven out in practice. Test 2 is multilingual performance, and the failure mode is real. You ship to Spanish or French speakers. The model starts dropping context or giving weirdly degraded answers, and your users churn before you even notice the quality gap, which means lost revenue, not just a benchmark number. What surprised me here is how one-sided the data situation is. Claude has published numbers showing 98.1% of its English baseline in Spanish and 97.9% in French, while Minimax M3 claims strong multilingual support, but there's no published benchmark to actually back that up, and you can see on screen it's just blank on Minimax's side. To be fair, Claude's numbers come from vendor-published data, so I'd take them with a grain of salt too, and Minimax might genuinely be competitive here. But a missing data point is just a gap that hasn't been filled yet, not proof that the model fails. I was expecting at least one real head-to-head number, and got one side with data and one side with a claim. So because you can't compare what doesn't exist, this one's another tie. Running score Minimax M3 0, Claude 0, 2 tests tied. Though if multilingual matters to you, Claude at least has receipts. Test 3 is real-time information access, and the failure mode is pretty painful. Your model confidently answers a question about something that changed 6 months ago. Your user spots it, and now your product looks unreliable because a stale knowledge cutoff can quietly become a trust problem that's hard to walk back. Claude Opus 5 has a knowledge cutoff of May 2026, which is 4 months fresher than Minimax M3's January 2026, and both models can browse the web. But Minimax is the only one with a published web browsing benchmark at 83.5 on BrowseComp, while Claude has no comparable number. That said, if both models can browse the web in real time, the cutoff gap shrinks a lot for most use cases, and you'd only really feel the 4-month difference on tasks where you can't or won't enable web search. So this win for Claude is real, but it's narrower than the headline makes it sound. I was expecting a tie since both have web search, but the 4-month cutoff gap is a verified, documented difference, and that's enough to give Claude the point. So Claude takes test 3, and the running score is now Minimax M3 0, Claude 1, 2 tied, which is the first decisive result of the whole comparison. Test 4 is API pricing, and this one has a very concrete failure mode. You build a prototype, it works great, you scale it up, and then your monthly bill is 10 times what you budgeted because you didn't check the per token rate before committing to a model, and that's a real thing that happens. Okay, so the numbers on screen are pretty wild. Minimax M3 standard pricing is 0.60 per million input tokens and 2.40 per million output tokens, while Claude Opus 5 is $5 input and 25 output. So that output gap is more than 10 times, and honestly, I wasn't expecting the delta to be quite this big. I knew Minimax M3 would be cheaper, but over 10 times cheaper on output is a bigger gap than I expected. So Minimax M3 takes this one easily, and the scoreboard is now Minimax M3 1, Claude 1, 2 tests tied, which is a real number you can build a business case around. Test 5 is reasoning speed, and the failure mode here is latency in user-facing products. Your app feels sluggish, users start abandoning mid-task, and you're paying for a slow model when a faster one would have kept them around because speed isn't just a nice-to-have when real users are waiting. Honestly, this one was a bit frustrating to look at. Minimax M3 claims a 9x prefill speedup and a 15x decoding speedup compared to its own previous generation, plus a 95% reduction in per-token compute. But those are all relative to Minimax's old model, and there's no Claude latency data to compare against. The hard truth is that self-reported speedups against your own previous version aren't really a head-to-head benchmark. So Minimax might be faster than Claude, or it might not be, and we genuinely can't say, which makes this a question mark, not a verdict. And I'd want real latency numbers from both sides before calling it. I was hoping this would break the tie, but the data just isn't there on either side, so no comparable numbers means no winner. Another tie. Final scoreboard, Minimax M3 1, Claude 1, 3 tests tied, which is a super close result and means the decision really does come down to what you actually need. Minimax M3 wins on price, full stop. $0 input and $2.40 output per million tokens versus Claude's $5 and $25. Plus it has autonomous web browsing with a published BrowseComp score of 83.5 and matches Claude's 1M token context window at a fraction of the cost. Claude wins on knowledge freshness with a May 2026 cutoff versus Minimax M3's January 2026, and it has documented multilingual performance showing 98.1% of English baseline in Spanish and 97.9% in French, with real published numbers behind the claim that Minimax simply has no equivalent data to show. Honestly, I expected a cleaner winner and got a 1-to-1 split instead. So here's the rule. If you're running high-volume API calls where token costs actually compound, go Minimax M3 because 10 times cheaper on output is real money. But if you need verified multilingual quality or the freshest knowledge cutoff, go Claude.